another episode of Friday Nights on the Bayou. I'm your host, Grant Sashray, the owner and host or whatever of Ruger Sports Media, as well as a reporter columnist of Crest City Sports. I'm joined here most of the time by Jace Lejeune, unless Andy's got him locked up in the basement at the Gridiron Football headquarters.
Pretty much.
And then we got a good friend, Spencer Verrat. Spencer, of course, has been a good friend of me and Jace for the last year or two. Well, Jace for the last year, but me and Spencer go all the way back to our LSU Reveille days. LSU, we're both in the same graduating class. And also, he's now a sideline reporter where he does a lot of stuff for the LHSAA Network, covers games across the state, and also kind of, Crest City, the LHSAA, Crest City, sports connection, that we got that going this year. I know that's a big deal. I know Ken talked a good bit about that at the luncheon we both attended to kick off the season. But Spencer, man, how's it been going? Long time no see.
It certainly has been a long time no see. I've been traveling to the far reaches of the state. I wear a lot of different hats for the LHSAA Network. You kind of hit on one time I did sideline reporting. I do multimedia reporting on. I've done the desk at state championships a few times. I've even been the guy who goes and runs and gets coffee for us at the studio. It's been a good summer. Had plenty of great experiences in North Louisiana. Met great people up there. But I'm excited to be home for a little bit, and we're excited about everything that we're doing with the LHSAA Network as well as Crescent City Sports. That luncheon we had the other day, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I dodged the introduction on accident. I was sitting in the corner. I had already had my food. I was up. I was going to sit in the corner. So, but it's been a great summer for us, and we're excited for this year. We'll have. Last year we only did 2 game of the weeks, but this year we'll have 10 game of the weeks, and we got a really good one coming up this Thursday with Central De La Salle, which we'll get into later. But we also just recently announced a Friday night show that's going to have statewide highlights across the state. You'll see Acadiana Ruston, you'll see Barb, you'll see Sam Houston, you'll see we might even get South Plaquemine on there one week. All 4 corners of the state, however many corners you think the state has, it'll be on there.
I'll tell you what, the luncheon, I remember they're doing all right, say your name, what high school you went to, you say your name, what you do, and then what high school you went to. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do this again. I went through 4 years of college and who knows how many years of high school and middle school and elementary. I'm not doing this introductory thing, so I'm gonna sit down, unlike everybody else, and just say, hey, my name's Grant Sashray, and I do this and that, and I went to high school in California, but my dad went to Brother Martin, because the thing is in New Orleans, for people who may not be from New Orleans or really don't understand it, people from New Orleans, when they ask you what school you went to, they're not talking about what college you went to. They're talking about what high school you went to, and that's kind of a big thing. If in New Orleans, it's I went to Booker T, I went to Warren Easton, I went to Rummel, I went to Brother Martin. They're very proud. They're very, very proud of where they went to school, and they're really prideful too. It's a big matter of fact, when what's her name, the Supreme Court judge, Amy Coney Barrett, she mentioned I went to Dominican. I was like, oh shit, she's from New Orleans, man. So that's a big deal for me. And so I was like, oh god, I'm not gonna mention my high school in California, but I'm gonna mention my dad went to Brother Martin just to be familiar with everybody. But Spencer, I know recently you went to the Bayou Jamb, which is a pretty big deal up in North Louisiana. You had a lot of teams from Monroe, a couple teams from the Shreveport area. So, Spence, kind of break down what you experienced over there, maybe game by game, players you may have witnessed, because that was a pretty big deal. And I didn't know how big of a deal that was until I started seeing it on Twitter. Oh wow. I was
yeah, so I tell you what, it's the biggest jamboree in the state, I'm pretty sure, in regards to how many games they play. I think they have the Kiwanis Jamboree beating Lafayette by 1 game. So if Kiwanis wants to come out and put together an extra day of football and throw 2 more games in there, then they'll have the biggest jamboree in the state. But I'll tell you what, for never having gone to that area, I gained a pretty good understanding of how they value football. I showed up, it was pouring down rain, the weather sucked. And our first game of the day was Washita Christian against Cedar Creek. Washita Christian were semifinalists last year, couple minutes away from the Dome and beating Southern Lab, but a little bit of a late game collapse from them. I tell you what, though, they lost a lot of guys off that team last year. They replaced them with a lot of guys who, while young, could really develop as the season goes along. I know one thing that Coach Fitzhugh talked about was these guys might be young, but they're gonna make you work for every yard, every point that you might want to score. And now Cedar Creek, I think what we used to know Cedar Creek as, like when I was maybe born, I guess around that time, the early 2000s, late 2000s, around that time, Cedar Creek apparently was a lot better. They certainly looked a lot further behind, especially I know I talked to Jake Martin of the Washita Citizen up there, and he said they're a little bit further behind than he thought, and they struggled. But I'll tell you, if a guy you really need to be watching out for on Washita Christian is Macon Leonard. This dude, he's running back. He is, I'll tell you what, he's got a big body with him, but that body is fully almost made up of muscle. He's hard to bring down. They bring back their quarterback from last year, so obviously having a little bit more experience in that position, being in that area. They had a really good D-tackle / offensive lineman sort of guy bouncing back and forth, number 50. I forget his name off the top of my head. But they overall look like they could put together a solid year, especially if you have that many young guys returning, or at least you have that many young guys stepping into a role. It might be a struggle at the start of the year, but they certainly didn't look like they struggled. Cedar Creek, I really didn't have any notable players for, just because it just seemed like, I mean, in the first half, the Washita Christian defense held them to negative 10 yards. And they played 2 12-minute halves. And that's kind of how it started out. And the weather was god awful. I mean, it was terrible. But after that, we had Oak Grove and Richwood. Now, going into this game, I was expecting Oak Grove to just steamroll Richwood, but Richwood really had some, to be honest, they had a quarterback who immediately caught my eye. Trey Lane. He stands at about like 6'5", kind of reminds me a lot of Elijah Haven and out of Dunham. This dude, he's tall. I think he's a young guy, maybe a sophomore or a junior. But where they really, really stood out to me was Andre Williams, the running back. That guy had a performance to remember and a performance that helped him stand out, because everyone after the game was like, okay, this dude is on notice now. He put me on notice. He had a couple of big runs early on, like a 74-yard run, another like 40-something yard run. And it was a back and forth game for that first half. But in the second half, the Oak Grove defense, which I will say it's a bit of a younger squad. They've got guys stepping into roles that last year weren't as much playing time. But the offense, it's basically the same offense as last year. You got obviously Jackson Bradley, one of the top quarterbacks in the state, regardless of classification in my eyes. You also have Jay Freeman back as well. It was funny, after the game, he tucked a towel into kind of like the back of his shoulder pads, and he said Super Freeman is back. And he had like a Superman thing going. But Oak Grove rolled in the second half. I think Richwood will surprise a few people this year. But overall, Oak Grove, they looked the part to be the team to beat in Division III. And we'll get to other teams probably later on, especially whenever we get to the likes of Gina, who really surprised me. But the final game of that night was Natchitoches Central against Washita Parish. A bit of a one that you want to, a bit of a game where you see just defense and defense only. I heard about 2 D tackles on Washita Parish, and I tell you what, they were all over that backfield for Natchitoches Central. Obviously, Natchitoches Central has Brad Laird, I think it is, from Northwestern State, who came down. But Natchitoches Central really didn't impress me too much. It seemed like every time they had the ball, they couldn't really do anything to stop those 2 defensive linemen. They had like one really open deep pass where the dude was standing right on it, just fell right through his hands. But it's to be expected whenever you have a first year guy stepping in. I know he's coming from the college ranks, but it might take him a couple of years. But I think down the line, that Natchitoches Central team will be a team to fear in the next couple of years, especially with him as head coach. You could tell he was doing all the right things. Washita Parish, on the other hand, could be a bit of a long season for them. I think they've got the guys and they've got those pieces in place, but you look at how they played in that game, and you look at all the other teams from their district that played that weekend, and that's such a difficult district. I mean, I think every 5A district can call themselves difficult. But then you sit down and look at it and you're like, okay, maybe all of them are really that difficult. You have the likes of the Southwest Louisiana district. You have the 5A or 1 5A and 2 5A, which are Shreveport and Monroe. It's like those districts are so difficult. And to be honest, offensively, Washita Parish wasn't doing much, but defensively, those 2 defensive tackles, I'll tell you what, they're the real deal. The game-winning sack was actually made by A.J. Washington. The Chiefs try to run a Hail Mary type of play. He got in the backfield, and Washington's number 99. The other guy is number 48. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but that was the first day. And honestly, I was ready to watch more football the next day.
Yeah, absolutely, Spencer. And really got a chance. I know Andy went up there to the Bayou Jamb and checked it out. I know you chatted up with him a little bit. He told me, I heard some stuff from Andy about how the Bayou Jamb was going. And he was really impressed with Gina, but Gina having the great year they did last year, I think they just really surprised a lot of teams last year, being that number 1 seed in the playoffs and having an undefeated season. And now they're losing a couple guys. Their running back, Eric Jones, he played in our Gridiron Football Bowl game, had to replace him at running back. But I've heard they looked really good against Manny. Tell me what you saw from really both Manny and Gina in that game.
Well, before we get to that, I want to also mention Red River. They're in a district with Manny now, and I'll kind of group Manny into this. So the final score between Gina and Manny was Gina 30, Manny 0.
Yeah,
which kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought Manny would be able to at least get something going. I know it's the second year for Coach Barrett out there. And we've known Manny as a perennial power type of team. I looked at their schedule a little bit after that game. I think Gina might be the toughest team they play. But I was also impressed with Red River. The Bulldogs played against Jonesboro Hodge. I think Jonesboro's got a lot of work to do, and it was good to see them out there. But the rain really poured down. It was coming down at a level I hadn't seen all weekend. And Red River was kind of able to manage that a lot more. A lot of Jonesboro Hodges stuff was from the shotgun. The sitter was having trouble snapping the ball. Everything for Red River was, up close and personal, will be in your face. And I was really impressed with them. But on to the Gina Manny game. Gina, I tell you what, they are the real deal. I think this team this year might have the same legs, if not better legs, than the team last year. Wow. I know the team last year went undefeated, but the 2 guys they have in the backfield, Daniel Hatcher was named the player of the game. He walked home with every player of the game walked home with a giant $250 check, which I thought was great.
That was pretty cool.
Both teams. Daniel Hatcher was named player of the game. He had 2 touchdowns. The other running back, his name's Cedric. I don't remember his last name, but his name's Cedric. Both of those guys they've been really excited about those guys. And I know Coach Roark was really happy with how his offensive line played on the day, which in reality, when with the kind of offense that Gina runs, you have to have that good O-line to be able to push other guys out the way. And just they were running free on Manny all day. They were the team that was the bigger, faster, stronger team. Defensively, they don't return a lot of guys, but their linebacking core really impressed me. And they've got a pretty good defensive end as well. Number 99, he had a really big day. Defense in general was just kind of shut down. They took the lead early, took a lead in the half, and then about halfway through the second half, they had pulled all their starters and were getting other guys playing time. But I was just really impressed with Gina. I thought going into that Bunkie would be the favorite to win that district, but I tell you what, now it's neck and neck. I know Bunkie has a lot of good returning talent with Dylan Compton and Kyle Johnson, but Gina's ability to replace some of those guys, I was really impressed. And even I saw Lamar Gafford there as well, who covers some football and sports. He was he was telling me beforehand, he's like, I'm basically going in blind with these two teams. I have no idea what they're going to look like. We talked halfway. I texted him at halftime. I was like, this Gina team looks amazing. He was the same way. Now, Manny, I think, could still find their way into a district title and a second, third round exit, but certainly they have a lot of work to do. They're a young group, though.
Mm-hmm.
Their player of the game was their sophomore running back, and he had sorry. He had a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And can you want to talk a little bit about? I know there's two other matches, the big ones. Neville and Ruston. Yeah. That was the 6:00 game, and then Evangel Christian and West Monroe, which is the 8:00 game. And really, from the Bayou Jamb, that's the game I heard about the most, was Evangel Christian and West Monroe. So start with Neville Ruston, break down what happened there, and then break down Evangel's offense, because Pops Houston was really killing West Monroe's defense. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I man, had something go down the wrong pipe there, but Neville Ruston. Yep. I heard a lot of expectations go into this game. Expectations lived up. Second play of the game, Aiden Anding takes a pick six to the house. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, here we go. Ruston's about to dominate Neville. Neville isn't ready for this moment. Neville 3 and outs, or they pump the ball back to Ruston. Man, hang on one second.
No, you're good.
Sorry about that. They punt it back to Ruston. So we finally get to see Josh Brantley get to work. And I was pleasantly surprised to see they handed the ball off to Jordan Hayes. And all of a sudden, here comes a defensive end around the corner, knocks the ball out. He takes it like 80-something yards back to the end zone. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we're ready. We're about to have a game here. Kind of goes back and forth for a little bit. Right before half, Ruston gets a touchdown. Just a Brantley scamper. They move the ball very productively. I felt like the offense was a little slow for their liking on the day, and Brantley agreed afterwards. But defensively, I tell you what, man, Ruston might be the best defense in the state. Mm-hmm. Some guys on Neville who really stood out to me defensively. Juju Burns. Yeah, I think that guy's a SEC level cornerback. Brody Watley, I think, is committed to TCU, if I remember correctly, or he's committed to some Big 12 team. He's a big boy, and he's gonna cause some trouble. This whole Neville defense is gonna be the thing that helps carry them, I think, for a lot of the year. Because Parker Robinson, I believe, is only a sophomore or a junior. He's a younger guy. He looked pretty good, though. I think Parker could legitimately be one of those top guys in the state come his senior year. So Neville actually took a 15-14 lead. Robinson had a lovely touchdown pass. But then they kicked the ball back off. And on kickoff, you have Aiden Anding back there. And I think he's one of the top athletes in the state. Mm-hmm. Ran it past everyone, even the kicker. I heard the kicker running over to the sidelines like, you couldn't catch him, dude? And he was like, dude, he's the fastest guy. He's walking on the field saying he's the fastest guy.
Yeah.
Man, I'm having a tough day with this cough. And Anding, his grandfather actually passed away earlier that week.
Oh, wow.
Had to go to a funeral on Friday, which was the day before his game. Yeah. So he had a little bit of tape on him that said "Rest up, Pawpaw," and it was a really, really good moment. You could tell it was a great game. And let me just say, Week 7, I don't think there's any better game in the state. I don't need to know what other game in the states there are. Neville Ruston's going to be an incredible game.
Yeah.
Get your ticket for that one.
Yeah, you might need to start ordering now because they might sell out quick. You won't have the luxury of a college stadium to play host to that one. Mm-hmm. So then we had the last game of the night. And I tell you what, guys, I've never seen Pop Houston take a live snap. Some other colleges haven't either. They've already offered this guy.
Yeah.
Dude is the real deal. Tell you what, he is the real deal. They came out. They had a lot of penalties. And I mean, I don't know the exact yardage on penalties, but it could have been triple digits in penalties. throughout the whole game, which is just 2.5 is crazy. But when rolling out, throwing on the run, he just looks so natural. And I think someone compared him to Kyler Murray. He's in his own world. He's an unbelievable. And I know West Monroe's had their troubles on defense, but he was unstoppable on the night.
Yeah. It just comes to show you, I mean, like, he's another great quarterback in a 2027 class that's going to be a quarterback class in Louisiana we're going to talk about for a long time. And to have him out there against West Monroe defense and torch them, man, that's saying something. I mean, Elijah Haven, I mean, he torched a really good U-High defense. So, yeah, these are some pretty good quarterbacks coming up in the next couple of years.
Yeah, 2027, we're spoiled. I mean, I don't know. You never know. Another guy might even pop out of there. But, I mean, I was blown away by Pop Houston. Yeah,
because I know we had on Joel Rogers of 318 Sports, and he wouldn't stop talking about Peyton Houston, Evangel. And the thing about Evangel the past few years is we've always known they've had talent. And, and that's the thing. They've always had a letdown year. But, he was very confident in Pops Houston and what he had brought to the table. And not only that, they're bringing in players from around the area, from Shreveport. And so I think they're going to build something special over there at Evangel again. But we'll see, because next week, not this next week, but this weekend, they will host Neville, a team we just talked about. And Neville, of course, I believe they beat Evangel last year, and I believe it was in overtime. I know they beat him, but what's it was in overtime against this Evangel offense that seems to be unstoppable.
It might be unstoppable, but it's going to be interesting to see when an unstoppable force meets a brick wall.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Neville's defense looked really, really good. I'll be interested to see if they target anywhere near Juju Burns, because kid's unreal. I mean, he's a great cornerback, and that defensive line can really get in behind and cause troubles, and could be a long night, could be a great night. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yep. That's just a classic matchup, with the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. So that's just one of those classic battles you like to see, and it's going to be really fun seeing it. We're going to see how good Grant Pop Houston is when you start off against a team like that, like Juju Burns, Roby Watley, those guys. Like, that is not going to be a cakewalk, and we're going to find out how good this Evangel team is really early on.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, and they did. Evangel did, in fact, beat Neville. Oh, no, Neville did, in fact, beat Evangel 30-29 in overtime. And so I expect a lot of fireworks out of this game. I really do. I think Neville will be a little bit more improved this year. They have a new head coach, of course, Mike Collins, who was promoted to that spot. He was the defense coordinator last year, so there's no unfamiliarity with the defense. This team is still going to be a team that's going to run based off the defense. It's going to be a defense-oriented team more than anything. They're going to run the ball down your throat because that's who Neville is. Evangel is, Evangel. They're going to throw the ball down the field. They're going to be finesse. They're going to try to score a lot of points, which they have been doing. The issue of Evangel, like I said, is getting over the hump, and it starts with Neville. If they beat Neville, I think we'll probably see what Evangel used to look like when we were all growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Because when we were all growing up, Evangel was they're on ESPN.
Yeah.
They're on ESPN all the time for a national televised high school game.
They're playing De La Salle in California. They're playing Mater Dei. They're playing all these great teams.
And I will say, on
Hoover.
Evangel's sideline, Brock Berlin is working as a coach there now, and his son, I believe, is a sixth grader this year. So when Pop graduates, he'll be like a sophomore. So
yeah, they're gonna be just
the
fine.
pipeline keeps going.
They're gonna be just fine after Pop.
Oh yeah, no problem. So who we got winning this game?
I have Neville winning this game, Grant. In my opinion, I know Spencer's going to elaborate too, but I really like how balanced Neville is. They got themselves a really good running back too in the backfield too. and not a lot of people are talking about as well. So I think they're the more balanced team. So I'm gonna go with Neville to get a win. But I think Evangel's going to make some noise, make a lot of plays on Friday night.
I'm gonna have to go with Neville as well. I think Neville's defense is the real deal. And I still have seen Evangel a little bit, but I haven't seen them that much yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled this one out. And I know the Evangel coaching staff are very high. That if they could get past Neville, they can run the table. So I think Neville will handle them. But I'll be interested to see what the final score is.
Yeah, me too. I think that's what I'm more intrigued with as well.
And I'll say this: I might go with Evangel this one. Neville's gonna have a new quarterback. I know the defense can be really good, but the issue is, can you stop Evangel enough to the point where the offense can catch up? I just don't know offensively if the Tigers are there. Because we saw that last year with Central. They faced a very tough Central team. Now, they weren't scoring points like Evangel was, but the problem, because they weren't scoring offensively, it allowed Central to come back and end up winning the game and then upset in the second round. I don't know if Neville was there offensively. I know they're there defensively. I mean, we're talking about Brody Watley, Juju Burns. I mean, they got players in the defense. It's a matter of, do they have the players in the offense? And I think Evangel has enough talent on both sides. I know Evangel's defense, we don't know about them just yet, who they are defensively, but they have enough talent there on both sides. I think they'll overcome Neville. I think it'll be Neville 35, Evangel 35, Neville 31. It's gonna be kind of high scoring. I think you're gonna see a little bit of fireworks. I don't know if I think Neville's offense can score enough points, because I'm not sure about Evangel's defense. It's a matter of, can Neville's defense stop Evangel's offense?
Yeah. One quick note, Grant, before I'm sorry to interrupt, but one quick note before we go on to the next game. Key player here, Grant, I think to keep an eye out on. I think he's going to make the difference in this game is Jalen Nichols, the running back for Neville. I think he's a real deal. And if they can lean on him and keep Evangel's offense off the field and play that time of possession, that's probably going to be their best bet, to be a team like Evangel. So I think he would be a big key factor if Neville's going to be able to get the win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, moving on, I'm going to go to another game that's going to be happening. Well, the first three games I want to talk about are all going to happen in North Louisiana, since we're kind of on that topic today. But this is Acadiana at Ruston. Ruston, of course, is bringing back a lot of players from last year's squad. The quarterback's coming back. A good bit of the defense is coming back. I know they lost a good bit of players from a good bit of key players from last year, but they still have a lot of talent. They're still going to be a team that a lot of people are high on. They're usually the number one team in the 5A rankings. We saw that at Crystal City Sports. We saw that with the LSWA. So people think a lot of big things are going to happen in Ruston. Acadiana, of course, is bringing back a lot of players as well. They're bringing back a very talented offense. The Veers always going to be very effective with the Rams. And not only that, they have a lot of weapons in the passing game as well. Yeah. They got a great quarterback. They got two really good receivers, both going D1. Of course, Russell Babno is going to UL. Lafayette is coming to UL. And then you also have another receiver in Colin DeBetta, who has got picked up a few D1 offers as a sophomore. Yeah. So guys, what do you like about this matchup? I mean, this is a great matchup right here.
I think it's the perfect matchup to start off the year with, right? You want to challenge yourself, especially as a team. Now, I'm gonna jump straight into my prediction. I think Ruston's gonna win this game. I think if there's any defense that's up for the task of defending against the Veer, it's got to be Ruston's defense. I mean, they are the real deal. I think they've got too much speed for Acadiana off the rip. And I think offensively, while it might be a bit of a slow start, I think the defense can keep the Bearcats in this one to where the offense can put enough points to win the game. It'll be a low scoring one though. I think maybe 21-14, 24-14, something like that. It'll be close.
Yeah, I'm right there with Spencer. We talked about Grant. We talked about what the best teams were coming into the season. And to me, the best teams coming into the year after seeing them are Endicott and Ruston. I feel like those are the two best teams in the state. And I have to go with Ruston just because of how balanced they are. You return your quarterback that led you to a state championship. You return your running back who seemed like he's been playing forever, for Ruston. And then you bring that defense in, and he's going to win games by himself. Especially he'll be a difference maker on special teams, on defense. I think that's actually going to be the advantage, even though Russell Babin was a pretty good return man as well for Acadiana. And Acadiana is going to be dangerous because this is one of the better passing teams that they've had in the program's history, which is going to make a difference down the road. But I like Ruston right now. I think they may be, you can probably say, maybe most complete team in the state. We talk offense, defense, running the ball, throwing the ball. They can pretty much do it all. So give me the Bearcats. I think it is going to be a lower scoring game because when you got these two teams that like to run the ball, it's going to be a quick game. So similar score, like 2014, that 21-14, that type of score. I mean, I have Ruston getting the edge on the KDM, but that is going to be one heck of a game, especially with two of the best 5A teams in the state.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna pick Ruston too. I think these two teams are evenly matched because they got two really good defenses. Of course, Acadiana has always had a really tough defense, but I think Ruston I think they have a little bit more speed than Acadiana does, and Acadiana has a good bit of speed too. But I think Ruston has a little bit more. I think just the fact that they're at home, they don't have to make that drive like Acadiana does. I think that just gives them an advantage. And I got Ruston winning the game. Probably be like a 17-14 game. I don't expect a whole lot of points. If you like great defense, this is the game for you. But if you like great offense, it ain't. You might as well stay your butt home. So
it's just gonna be a good overall game. I feel like
exactly.
Game, overall really good game.
It's gonna be like Destrehan Ruston the state championship a couple years ago, where you just had it was basically a 7-14 game, but they were so great at what they did defensively.
It was really good football.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But this next game I also want to talk about. It's the last game we're going to cover out of North Louisiana. That's Oak Grove at Calvary Baptist. Of course, these two teams are defending state champions. Oak Grove was the defending Division IV select state champion, although they'll be moving up to the non-select Division III non-select this year. So that'll be a very interesting storyline to follow throughout the year. Calvary, of course, is the defending Division III select state champion, and probably in my opinion, of all the teams, they have the best chance of repeating. Just not only given who they bring back, but also who they've added through, I guess you could say, the transfer portal, because they got picked up two really good players with Caleb Tucker and Devin Harper, who both left when their coaches left for other jobs. So, guys, I mean, I think this might be the game of the week for a lot of people. I know that's especially so in North Louisiana, but I mean, two great quarterbacks, two high-scoring offenses. What do we expect from this game?
I'll jump out on a limb here. I think Oak Grove's going to win this game.
Ooh,
wow, I like it.
I think everything that, and I think a big part of that too is for the Jamboree, Union beat Calvary. The scoreboard said 24-24, but the Union
that
Parish,
was more of a win for Union.
Yeah. I mean, it really surprised me as well. I thought Union would take a step back, but I mean, Coach Spat, he always have that team ready. I just like everything Oak Grove can do offensively. And I think defensively they're going to get better. And I know there's been a bit of a stigma that Oak Grove starts the season slow. It's the year to not start the season slow, and I think Jackson Bradley is going to have a terrific, a stellar senior season, and I think he gets to start on the right foot. I think he's going to be really difficult for the Calvary defense to stop, and I think Oak Grove's defense is going to grow up very quickly. I don't know a score, but I like Oak Grove in this one.
So, I mean, I like your boldness there, Spencer, but I'm going to have to disagree with you there, even though these are two defending state champions, and both these two teams are going to be in at the end as far as for a state championship. Both these two teams are really that good. They're both defending state champions. I just like, because you mentioned that Oak Grove's defense is young. You mentioned that earlier. I think they're going to score points with Calvary. It's going to be more of a higher scoring game. But just the fact you add Devin Harper for Calvary on the offensive line, you still have James Simon you can run the football with. And I feel like late in the game, and it's the fourth quarter, and they're going to rely on Simon a lot more in the fourth quarter. And I think they're just going to kind of ground and pound their way. It's going to be a high scoring game. I think Calvary's going to score a touchdown that kind of pulls them away at the end, maybe like a 42-28 type of game. But I mean, they're one of my top 3 teams, no matter what classification. I had in the car, Ruston, Calvary Baptist, and everybody was saying as good as dominant as Calvary Baptist was last year, that they even gotten better now. And another reason too is because you mentioned the score with Union Parish. I think Coach Guillen, I think they're going to be really motivated after that game, knowing like, okay, we're better than this. Even though Union Parish is a defending state champion themselves too, I think there's a lot of expectations for this team, and they've been hearing the noise, so I think they're going to be ready for it. So I got Calvary Baptist coming up on top. Mike Grant.
Oh boy, that's a first. So I think this Calvary Baptist secondary is going to be the key in this game. The secondary is very young. I know this from talking to a couple people that are in the program, and that's kind of going to be the issue moving forward with them. I think they'll right this ship as the season goes on because the Calvary's got a great coaching staff, and those guys are talented themselves. So I think early in this early part of the season, they're going to struggle just a bit because they're on the younger side of things. So if Calvary Baptist is going to win this game, I think their secondary needs to step up big time, because not only are they dealing with a quarterback who can run the ball effectively, he's one of the best athletes in the state. Mm-hmm. He can also throw the ball down the field on the run as well. So if they just I feel like if their secondary stays disciplined, they can pull this out, and I think Calvary will. I think Calvary, it will be a high-scoring game. I think it will be 42-35, something along those lines. But I got Calvary winning.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be good. That's gonna be a really good game. And if you like two good quarterbacks, Ava Mordell and Jackson Bradley, that's gonna be a really fun game to watch. If you like offense, a little different from the last game we talked about.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. Abram Mordell is 22-1 as a starter. So maybe I'm picking the wrong thing, but he's a tough guy to lose against.
Jackson Bradley hasn't lost many games either. So like he's won three state championships, two in 3 years. So yeah, this man has won a whole lot of football over his time at Oak Grove. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Moving on to the next game. This game is on Thursday. Not a Friday game. It's actually a Thursday game in the Central De La Salle. I mean, there's a few good games on Thursday, but I think this one sticks out the most. Central last year was one of the harder teams in the state. They finished the regular season 7-3. They went to the quarterfinals, where they lost in controversial fashion to Dutchtown. And I was about to say Dutchtown, but Dutchtown, similar, but Dutchtown. But I think this team really, because I would say I picked them to beat Neville, but I said that if they beat Neville, they had a clear shot to go to the state championship, and they almost did if it weren't for a controversial fashion. I think this team is a state title contender team. Mm-hmm. However, I think a lot of people forget this because how these two teams kind of to finish the season, but De La Salle actually beat Central at the beginning of the year last year. And and I think that that's kind of shocking. Because if you look at the rest of the way, De La Salle did not finish the season well. But De La Salle, they bring back a lot of talent. They bring back the quarterback. They bring back a really talented receiver, Ronald Cash. So I really like this De La Salle team this year. And then also, they moved down to Division III Select, which I think is more their speed. I think a little bit more their speed to Division III Division II Select, where you had, when you originally had like St. Thomas More. I know that's changed now, but I really like this De La Salle team this year. But do we expect another upset victory over Central at the start of the year like last year?
Well, I'll go ahead and say that this game is on our network. This is the game we picked for our game of the week. You can watch it tomorrow night on the network channel. You can watch it on YouTube. That's one of the good things. Whenever we get to stream these games in season, we can stream them on YouTube as well. I think Central's got this one this year. I know last year they lost to them. They really came together throughout that year. Second year now with David Semino. You return your quarterback in Jackson Furman, and he's really been impressive this offseason. They've got a lot of other impressive pieces. The Mays kid on the defense, another great player. And I know De La Salle didn't end the season great last year, but I think they do have a big season in store for them. I just think Central gets by them here on Thursday night.
Yes, revenge is on their mind. I'm sure Coach Semino has talked about this game a whole lot this offseason. And the Wildcats have something to prove because last year they pretty much snuck up on a lot of teams last year. I mean, I know that Central was expecting success. I mean, when you hire David Semino, I don't think a lot of people were expecting that wave of success in year one. This is really like making sure it wasn't a fluke, type of year. And I really think this Central team is going to be really good. Like, this team is good enough to win a district championship and beat Catholic and beat Zachary. Like, this is how good this Central team can really be. And just like you meant, the weapons Spencer mentioned with Jackson Furman, he's one of the best quarterbacks in South Louisiana. And then when you have DK Mays, who's got some reps at tight end too. So imagine having him on offense a little bit too, along with he's doing it on defense. So I think Central is going to be. I think De La Salle is going to be a really good team. They actually tied Newman in their jamboree. So I mean, and that's some really good sign for De La Salle, knowing you can tie a team like Newman. But I'm going to go with Central. I think Central's going to be just too much, and they're going to be motivated for this game, knowing that they let one slip away from them last year. So I think Central's going to pull away with this one and win by a good margin.
Yeah, I mean, this Central team, revenge is definitely on their mind because last year they ended up losing against them 27-20, of course. And I think De La Salle might keep it interesting at the beginning, I think Central's going to pull away late. I think they're a year older now. They brought in a lot of guys. I know and I did not know this till a few weeks ago or recently, really, was that they brought in Jaden Sparrow from Catholic.
Yeah, they did.
And I actually did not know that because I remember going up to Catholic and asked about the offensive line, Jaden Sparrow, and he didn't mention Jaden Sparrow. I was like, that's weird. Why didn't you mention Jaden Sparrow? And then I found out that he went to Central, and that was kind of like a late transfer thing. I was like, it literally just happened, right? Like I think it happened like a day or two beforehand. So I really thought he was could be Central, but Central's got a nasty offensive line now. I mean, now I know they lost a good bit, but you bring in a guy like Jaden Sparrow. The Mays brothers are going to be dangerous coming off the edge. Keon Conference at a quarter. Mason Moore as a guy, another rising sophomore to watch in the class of 2027. So I really like the Central team, but I think Central's going to pull away late. Mm-hmm. And also I want to mention this too because I know Spence mentioned that the LHSAA Network will be broadcasting the game. Crescent City Sports will also be broadcasting the game through its radios. I also believe it might be live streamed on YouTube, I believe, as well. But I'll double check on that. But it will be broadcast on 106.1 FM in New Orleans. If you're listening in your car or on the road or whatever. And I actually will also be the sideline reporter at that game too, which is something that's brand new to me, and I'm really excited to watch these two teams play. But yes, once again, I think we all picked Central. I think we're all. This this might be the first time really we're all on the same page. Of all the games,
we all agreed on Rustin.
Yeah, we did. That's true. But yeah, moving on. Another game we want to cover. This time we're going to head over to the Lafayette area. We got Vermilion Catholic at Catholic New Iberia. Two fantastic programs. Vermilion Catholic's looking for to finish off John D'Artez's career with the state championship. They got a lot of talented players coming back. Catholic New Iberia's got a lot of talented players coming back too. I believe Catholic New Iberia went 11-1. They got upset. Their only loss was an upset fashion to Lake Charles College Prep in the second round. But they do bring back a lot of players, including its quarterback, Luke Landry. So, guys, what do we expect over there in Iberia Parish?
Go ahead,
Spence.
Jace. Oh.
Okay, I'll go first. So yeah, Vermilion Catholic. When it comes to Vermilion Catholic, Jonathan D'Artes is one name that just go see this kid play. He is so fun to watch. Nobody's really talking about him, and his name just kind of slips through the cracks a lot. But he's a fun guy to watch, and you can tell he's a gamer. He's a player. He's kind of like what you want in a great high school quarterback. Which is that even though Luke Landry does return for the Panthers, and really they're coming back to what we got used to with the winning from Coach Indes, when Coach Indes really built that program into its winning ways, and when they were competing for state championships. So they're getting back to that type of level and competing for those championships. But I like Vermilion Catholic. I like Coach Prejean. I mean, he does a great job with that program. And when you have that head coach quarterback relationship, I know they're going to be another team we talk about, Division 4 select, I believe. So they're going to be competing for that, because when you have a quarterback, especially in the smaller schools, that's going to make a difference. So it's going to be a high-scoring game when you got two veteran quarterbacks and two offenses that are really good. I think it's going to be a similar type of score we talked about earlier with Calvary, and we talked about Oak Grove. It's going to be one of those, maybe 40, 49, 42, 45, 41 type of games. But give me D'Artes and Vermilion Catholic, because they haven't lost many regular season games, so they've been really good in the regular season. So give me Vermilion Catholic.
I'm gonna disagree with you there. I think Catholic New Iberia's got a really good squad going in this year. You mentioned Luke Landry's returning. They also returned wide receiver Jaden Mitchell, who had a really big year for them last year. Second year head coach now out there, I believe. And this year it's kind of like a revenge tour sort of for them. I think last year they didn't go out the way they wanted to, being upset in the first or second round, I think it was.
The second round.
Second round. And I think this year they just want to get started off on the right foot. I know last year they had a really successful first half of the season. And I do think Vermilion Catholic will see success this year. I just like Catholic New Iberia here. In a high-scoring game as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a high-scoring. Yeah, that will be the one.
Yeah, I believe it will be a high-scoring game too. And really, I mean, I'm going to have a hard time trying to pick this game, because I like both teams. I think both teams have great offenses. They both have a lot of experience. When you talk about Catholic New Iberia having a 3-year starting quarterback, and then Vermilion Catholic having a 4-year starting quarterback, but I'm probably going to lean towards. Damn, I'm coming down with the cough too, Spence. Damn, you make me sick as well.
It's passing. Jace, you're next.
I gotta get ready. Ready for that water bottle before it gets too bad.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to agree with Jason. I'm gonna have to go with Vermilion Catholic. I think it'll be close. I think Vermilion Catholic will pull it off at the very end of the game, late in the game. I'm gonna pick Vermilion Catholic. I'm very high on both these teams, so it was very hard for me. Like, I think it could go either way. I think
overtime.
It's a correct answer either way. I think the answer is yes. Basically,
answer is yes. This will be an incredible game. Go see it if you're in the Iberia Parish area. Catholic New Iberia knows how to bring home a good crowd. So I don't even know who's hosting it. Who's hosting it? Vermilion Catholic or Catholic New Iberia?
Catholic New Iberia. Yep.
Yeah.
Go see Big Red. Go have go enjoy yourself Friday night out in Iberia Parish.
Oh yeah, definitely. Another game I want to talk about, and these are two really interesting teams, are St. Charles and Newman. St. Charles. Oh, damn, Spencer, make me sick, man. Come on, man.
Damn.
I'm watching
Just
now.
get your mask on, bro. Get your mask on.
Yeah, exactly. Mask up, baby. Mask up. Anyway, St. Charles, they lost 17 of their starters last year due to graduation. I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest senior classes that school has ever seen. Really, probably is the greatest, because they went from the time they were in 8th grade, because 8th graders on the varsity team, from the time they were 8th grade to their senior year, they went to 5 straight state championships, which for any program, it's really hard to do. No matter if it's Louisiana, California, Alabama, it doesn't matter. It's really hard to do. And they do return some good players like Noah Tucker, who's a receiver that's committed to Arkansas State. So, I mean, they still have a few players back, but I mean, it's harder to replace 17 starters who have contributed to a solid bit of your state championship appearances in program history.
Mhm.
Then you also, but on the other side, you have Newman. Newman, I can't remember the last time Newman's beaten St. Charles. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
St. Charles has often got the better of the Greenies in the past few seasons. But I think it's leaned in the Greenies' favor. I mean, they got Eli Frank coming back at quarterback. They got Jake Randall coming back as at the running back spot. They have Brett Bordelon, who's an LSU commit. I mean, this group of Newman, this specific group of Greenies, I mean, this year and last year, probably the two most talented teams they've had. Not only just in terms of just talent, but also they're just physical. I mean, which is hard to believe that a private prep school in Uptown New Orleans can be tough. But they are. They're very tough. They're very, very tough. So, guys, is this the Greenies' year to finally beat the Comets?
I agree. I think they will be able to take down St. Charles Catholic. I think what you mentioned there about St. Charles Catholic, they have so many new guys stepping into roles. I know they have a great coaching staff there, but those new guys normally take a little bit to gel. And if you only have to replace a couple, then you see results early. But I think if you have to replace a lot more of those guys, then you see those results a lot later. You mentioned Eli Friend. He's got a friend in you and me, and he's a really good quarterback as well. Last year I saw him against Manny, and they looked really good. I'm expecting them to have a pretty productive season this year, especially with the likes of Bordelon on the offensive line, LSU commit, as you said. And I just think they're in for this year. Whenever you lose a lot to the same team every year, it sort of plays on your mind. You're like, all right, this year we're going to go out there, we're going to beat them. So give me Newman. Couldn't give you a score right now, but maybe like 31-27. Go with that.
It's hard to go against Wayne Stein, in this program, and all they do is win. And I've been burned before. Last year, I picked against them against U High, and they upset the Cubs in the semifinals. But this Newman team, like you mentioned, Grant, they've had problems in the past, even with Arch Manning, even with the great quarterbacks they've had over there through the program, of beating St. Charles Catholic. If they don't overcome the hurdle this year, I don't know when. So I'm going to go with Newman, just because what I saw last year and how physical they were, and like you mentioned, how physical a team. That's what impressed me last year when I saw them in the Jamboree last year against St. Martin's. So Eli Friends, I mean, as good of a replacement you can find when you have to replace a guy like Arch Manning. And they're physical up front. I mean, Jake Randall's a really solid running back, really good running back. Brett Bordelon, they're just nasty defensively as well, very physical. So knowing that, and that they got that edge, you think of Newman as like this finesse team, but they're not. I mean, they're a physical football team, and knowing that mindset, I think they're going to get it done too. I think it's going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. I have Newman pulling out maybe like a 24-17 type of ball, 24-21, that type of game. So give me the Greenies, and they have as really good of a chance under Nelson Stewart to finally break through that semifinal hurdle and make an appearance in the Superdome.
So I want to mention this: the last time that Newman beat St. Charles was in 2020, where they went 14-7.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that's the most points they've ever scored against St. Charles in the last 4 meetings. From 2020 to 2020, were you were there?
Yeah. I mean, that was Arch Manning too. That played in the game. So, and they scored.
Yeah. So from 2020 through 2023, because last year they got shut out. They didn't score a single point.
Mm-hmm.
The most they've ever scored was 14 points. You see that it's 14, 7, 13, and 0.
Yeah.
So St. Charles Catholic, I mean, I think this will be a low scoring game. I think Newman will squeak by. It'll be 14-10, something like that, because St. Charles Catholic has always been a very defensive oriented team. Wayne Stein is a defensive coach. He was a defensive coordinator under his uncle at St. Charles before he ended up becoming the head man when Frank Monica retired.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he is one of the best defensive strategists in the state, if not the best. I mean, we saw what he did against that Calvary Baptist team for 3.5 quarters. I mean, he locked them down. But I think Newman will squeak by just because I think their physicality matches up with St. Charles Catholic, and I think they have enough players to beat St. Charles Catholic.
Yeah, this is a
last year
team. This is the team he's had.
Yeah, and they're more established than St. Charles Catholic this year. I think last year I picked St. Charles. I picked St. Charles Catholic to beat Newman last year, but the reason why I picked St. Charles Catholic to beat Newman is because St. Charles had a lot of experience, right? And you had guys in Newman, even though they had experience too. There's a difference between St. Charles Catholic winning five straight state championships experience compared to Newman's experience, right? So I got to value that. But I think this year is the year that Newman finally breaks through. They're going 14-10 in Uptown New Orleans at Lubin Field. So it's going to be a very exciting time for the Greenies this year. Moving on to our final, we got two more games I want to cover. And that's, first let's start off with Carr at Shaw. I mean, Carr loaded, as always. You got 3 guys who are committed to LSU. You got another guy committed to Ole Miss. You got a receiver that's committed to Tulane. Shaw's got 2 fantastic players in running back Jackson Parker and Jacob Washington, who's a receiver, who both committed to Michigan. I mean, they got a lot of talented players over there as well on the defensive side of the ball. So, guys, I mean, do we see Shaw pulling off the upset?
I think it'd be great to see, but give me Carr. I think Carr is going to be one of the top teams in the state this year, regardless of classification. They're loaded everywhere, like you said. I think it is actually be a pretty high-scoring game, though. I think last year Shaw and Karen Crow played out some class of 56-50 game or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's going to get that crazy, but it could be very high-scoring. Lots to figure out early on in the season for some teams. These teams, there's not much to figure out because they return a lot of that talent. They got talent at every position. I just like Carr a lot more, though, in this one. I think Archbishop Shaw could be a semifinal team in Division II select, maybe even a dome team. But I just think the Cougars are going to be too much for the Eagles this time around.
I agree. I agree with Spencer. I have had in the Carr. I saw them in the spring with you, Grant. I saw them in the spring, and I was like, man, I mean, you look at their second, third team. I mean, it just keeps on going of how loaded this team really is. And they do, on both teams, have 2 of the most underrated quarterbacks in the state, in my opinion. I mean, both are playmakers. They both extend plays. So this is going to be a really exciting game. And the Carr, like I said, they're in my list of the top 2 or 3 teams in the entire state. I put them right now with Ruston going into the season. So I'm going with the Carr Cougars. I think Archbishop Shaw with Coach Tierney, you saw the leaps they made. I mean, leaps and bounds they made last year. And I think they're going to even make the next step this year, like Spencer said, go to that semifinal game, even make an appearance in the Superdome, which we've grown accustomed, growing up seeing Shaw and seeing Coach Tierney back then make his trips to the Superdome. So, but I don't think they're at that stage yet to go up against Carr week 1 and beat them. So give me the Cougars in this one. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I do agree with that. It's going to be a very exciting game to watch. Give me Carr win 45-31.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick Carr too. By the way, Jace, I like how you mentioned. Well, we saw Tierney go to the state championships growing up. Well, the last time Tierney went to the state championships at Shaw was, 2000. His last year over there in his first stint was 2001, unfortunately. But we did get to see him go to the state championship.
While in the 80s and 90s, for before I was even born.
Yeah,
so.
before me, you, and Spencer were even born, man.
Right.
Yeah, 2001, baby.
2001, I was, 4-year-old Jace running around.
Yeah.
Doing this thing in his own life. So, Jace around back then.
I'm going to pick Carr, but I also want to mention that this matchup will have 2 fantastic coaches in Bryce Brown, who has already made a legend of himself, even though he's 41, 42 years old. He's in his early 40s. He's won 4 state championships over there in Algiers, which is also on the West Bank. And then, Shaw, of course. They brought back Kate Tierney. And a few years ago, they were an afterthought program in the New Orleans area. Now under Tierney, they've gone back to this the elite prestiges of high school football in New Orleans, let alone Louisiana. But I think we're gonna pick Carr just because I feel like Carr's a more established program. They got more depth, they got more talent than Shaw does, and I think Shaw will be a state title contending team. I think everyone in the state does, but I just think Carr has a lot more talent. I'm gonna have to pick Carr by a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah,
and then also I did see Shaw play, and that's not a thing you need to watch it for. But I saw Shaw play against St. Aug, and I want to touch on this. St. Aug whooped them on the front, and St. Aug has a very similar D line, to Carr's.
Yeah.
I mean, because of course you got
Corey Adams.
Of course you got Jakeem Stewart on St. Aug's defensive line. You got three or four Jakeem Stewarts on the Carr's defensive line.
Yeah.
Just in terms of size, right?
Adams.
Yeah. So if there any indication why I picked Carr, I mean, just look what St. Aug did to Shaw last week. St. Aug beat them 20-7 in the Jamboree. St. Aug's another team to watch out for. I wish I could talk with them about them more. That'll be another show for another time because I think they're gonna have some big time matchups coming through. But the last game I want to talk about, I know I didn't touch on St. Thomas More and Carencro, but I think this matchup's even bigger than that.
All right.
It's Catholic at Destrehan.
Oh yeah.
Catholic, we all know about Catholic. Jace, we all know about he's a Catholic alum. He's probably gonna pick Destrehan to win because that's who he is. He's like, oh well, I think I want to have positive jinx my team. You're not, dude. You're just wrong. You were just wrong. But anyway, Catholic, they'll have a lot of familiar faces coming back. The Bradford brothers, they returned a good bit of their offensive line. They returned a lot of the receivers, the running backs, probably one of the best, the deepest in the state of Louisiana. But there is going to be an unfamiliar face at the quarterback spot. You will have Baylor Graves as the starting quarterback for the Bears, as Daniel Beal, who is a 4-year starter, is gone and is going to do big. Hopefully, he will do big time things for the Raging Cages. I'm not going to go into the name, UL Lafayette, or Louisiana. I don't care. I'm gonna stay safe and say the Raging Cages. So anyway, but Catholic. So that's Catholic. Destrehan will have probably one of the better pass attacks in the state. At quarterback, you got Jackson Fields. At receiver, you got 4 legit D1 dudes: Johnny Teal, Greg Wilfred, Philip Wright, and of course Jabari Mack, who's probably the most heralded of the 4. Although all 4 of them are getting recruited by multiple schools, Jabari Mack is a top 50 recruit in his class for the class of 2026. And they also bring back several key defensive players as well, including Jace Thomas, who is the son of former New Orleans Saint cornerback Fred Thomas. But this is gonna be a big time matchup. I'm kind of topsy turvy with this game. Guys, what do you think about this big time matchup?
I'm back and forth on it as well. I think both teams have a few major areas they need to figure out. I think Destrehan's offensive line, I've heard some things that they've certainly struggled a little bit, and it could come to fruition that Catholic's defense is going to be able to hold them out. But I think whenever you have the playmakers that the Wildcats have, it's really hard to keep you out the end zone for more than 3 scores. I think Catholic's going to do great things this year, but I think they're really young on offense. I know they return a couple of guys on that sort of squad, and they've got skill position guys who we need to watch out for. But I'm just liking Destrehan a little bit more right now. I think it could be a low scoring affair, maybe a 21-17 type of game, but it's going to be a great game to watch. I'm just excited to see how both these teams develop throughout the season.
Well, this is just going to be for Grant, just because it's only for Grant. Go Bears, baby! Well, I mean, I was debating myself too. I really was back and forth with this game. But if I be honest with you, Grant, if I didn't go to the Jamboree, last week, I probably would have picked Destrehan. But after seeing Catholic in the Jamboree against a really talented Madison Prep offense, they only gave up 60 yards of offense and a half and only 2 first downs. And, they got themselves a really good secondary. And you got the Bradford brothers. They got a lot of experienced guys in Sam Norman. Like they got experienced guys in the secondary. Now, Destrehan, they have the best receiving core in the state. Now, that's going to be a really good matchup. But I think Catholic can really hold their own, against them just because of how good that secondary is. It's going to be really fun to see those receivers against, Blaine Bradford and Jacob Bradford. That's going to be fun. But with the 2 quarterback situation, they were actually rotating 2 quarterbacks from the Jamboree with Baylor Graves and Turner Goldsmith. And the thing is, they're both kind of a similar guy. It's not like one's coming in and he's the passer and the other guy's a runner. I mean, they both can do similar things. So I think that's going to also throw Destrehan off a little bit. You mentioned defensively too. Catholic has one of the best O-lines in the state, and I think they're going to utilize that ground game because trying to hide their quarterbacks a little bit. So I think they're going to keep Destrehan's offense off the field for the most part when you got 3 running backs that can run the football, and they got skill guys that they can do it. So I think Catholic's going to win in the squeaker. It's going to be one of those 21-17 type of games. They're going to try to keep Destrehan's offense off the field, but that is going to be a very entertaining game that can definitely go either way.
Yeah, this is a very tough matchup, just because they're both very similar. They're both they both have their strengths. They both have their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
I've been kind of back and forth on this matchup. Pretty much the last month or two. This is a game that I think everyone's circled on their calendars just because you have Destrehan, who's such a power in the New Orleans area. They've won 6 state championships in their program's history, and with also with the amount of players they produced, they've gone and do big things. Catholic, kind of the same thing. Catholic's won 3 of the last 4 state championships. Catholic has really become a behemoth in high school football in the state of Louisiana. I actually went over there to interview Coach Fuller for an article that will be coming out when this episode does come out. It will already be published. It's about Catholic high school, their football program, and their facilities are really nice, man. I was blown away. They have an SID, which is short for Sports Information Director, which not a lot of high schools have. That's some like college football. That's some college sports type of stuff. That's how big it is over there. It's just an incredible campus. So I'm kind of glad I got to experience that. But I'm gonna have to pull with the Catholic Bears. I got to pull with the private Catholic all boys high school up there in Baton Rouge. They're really happy. They also got a lot of Brother Martin alumni. So I guess Brother Martin Catholic kind of brothers in that aspect.
Yeah, brothers of the Sacred Heart, baby.
Brothers of the Sacred Heart. Yeah, they're both brothers of the Sacred Heart. I'm gonna have to go with Catholic. I just think that they're a little bit more evened out than Destrehan on both sides of the ball. When I heard about their defensive line, the issues with the line on both sides of the ball for Destrehan, I was kind of a little bit worried because, and we both saw it against the car. I think the issue with Catholic though is that they're kind of weak on the defensive line, right? They lost a good bit of players last year. I know they got talent there, right? But it's hard. But that was kind of the question. I think that's going to be one of the question marks for Catholic this year is how their defensive line is going to hold up. I think their defensive line is going to get better over the season, but that is something you need to be constantly watching. But I think I'm going to go Catholic in a very tight game, and I think that the Bears will get it done on the road and end Destrehan's regular season home game winning streak at like 20. Yeah, I was thinking it was 22 straight games. So they haven't lost at home in the regular season since 2019.
That's crazy.
That's not including the playoffs.
Record.
Right, because their only loss during that span at home happened in the playoffs against Zachary last year. And to be fair to Destrehan, they were without Marcus Scott, their head coach, because he had that medical issue. So who knows how you should count that record? Because to me, they still haven't been beaten at home, with the advantages that they have. So that's gonna be a tough road. But Catholic did it last year when they went up to Picayune and beat them. I guess you could say in controversial fashion because they're needless down. That's a typical Catholic stuff. So apparently, the refs are bad. I'm just making this joke. Like obviously, I don't think Catholics playing the refs, but for some weird reason, all the bad calls happen with Catholics on the field. It's like the refs are incompetent. Yes, but I'm like, at this point in the game with these two teams playing, come on, man. Like it's just like. That's just my thing. It's not a Catholic thing. Catholics not paying the refs. Catholics isn't cheating. It's just that like the refs, for some reason, in the biggest moment of these games, and really now you're gonna see that. I'm gonna say this. You're gonna see that a lot across the state of Louisiana. The ref shortage.
I can to you real quick, Grant, about why that's the case.
The
Les
voodoo?
Miles' son went to Catholic High. Then you got someone that Les Miles' mojo, the rabbit transferred to Catholic High. So I think that's what the issue is. But one note, I think it's going to be sloppy early on, Grant. I really do. I think with it being such a big game, I think both teams are going to be making mistakes early just because of how big this game really is and how many eyes are on this one. So it wouldn't shock me. It's going to be sloppy to start off. I think both teams will get a footing of it in the second, third quarter.
Yeah, and what I mean by the refs thing, I think I was kind of touching on it with the refs. I feel like the refs do a good job, but there's sometimes where they miss a lot of calls, and it happens. That happens. But I think you're going to see a lot of issues with the refs in early on the season because there's a ref shortage. I mean, we saw that at the Jamborees where the refs are still kind of learning. So my biggest fear is that in one of these big games, you're going to see like a really egregious call, and that's something you don't. Yeah,
because
man.
Ewan Moses had an interception off Elijah Haven, and the referee blew his whistle on accident. Just like before he even intercepted the pass, he blew his whistle. So, good thing you get that figured out then and not actually during the game. So, that's why you have these jamborees.
Yeah, I mean, last year I know there was a controversial call with Catholic with the guy, when they caught the first time pass, his foot was out of bounds. Then the next play, Catholic ended up scoring the game-winning touchdown. That was really bad. But then, obviously, and then you also the next week you had Rummel with the catch in the end zone. Rummel thought they caught the ball in the end zone, but the ref said they dropped it. It was really inconclusive evidence. Although if you talk to any Rummel alumni, they still think he caught that ball, which I don't know, man. Because it was I can see the ref's point of view saying it's incomplete. And I can also see how maybe he caught the ball, but that's a tough call to make, especially when you don't have official replay. But my biggest fear, it's just any of these games really, is just the refs. I mean, I hope they get this figured out now because you don't want this to keep happening once you get to the playoffs, of course. I mean, that's the kind of. I know people are like, oh, there's a ref shortage. What's the big deal? It's like, well, if you don't have enough good refs, I mean. You're gonna see a lot of bad calls because the referees are new, but then also you got the move games to Thursday, you got the move games to Saturday because there's a ref shortage. I mean, I know Spencer, you guys have been covering that at the LHSAA Network. I know that's been a big issue with the LHSAA. Before we wrap these up, we have to say about the ref shortage.
I think it's an issue for sure, and it's not just an issue in terms of. We've had a ref shortage. I know you're talking about sometimes they don't get the calls right, but I think there needs to be a standard of officiating here in the LHSAA. And I think the people who are out there, I really do appreciate them. I know sometimes they make bad calls, but without them, we don't have a game. I remember there's one jamboree that someone went to. They were they forgot to schedule refs. They forgot to tell refs. Well, they didn't get to have that jamboree that day, or they had to do it without refs, and then it becomes unsafe. These referees establish a standard out there, and sometimes they're really good fun to talk to. Like for Cecilia last year, when it was the semifinals, it was pouring down rain. Me and Jace were hanging out the whole time, and then he booked it. I went and hung out with the refs for the rest of the time and I was going around figuring out what we were gonna do and talking with them. And they're great people, and you mostly just see it because not a lot of young guys want to get into it. Not a lot of young
Right,
men.
yeah.
No one really wants to get into it, especially at the youth level. As someone who's coached at the youth level, parents are ruthless.
Oh, yeah.
And I can imagine it can only
Mhm.
get worse at the high school level. Obviously, at the high school level, you're a little bit more protected.
Mhm.
But we just hope that it never becomes an issue to the point where, we need to see more Saturday games because, the more Saturday games, the more they miss out on Friday night shows. Thursday games, obviously, we broadcast Thursday games, but I think there was even a game tonight on a Wednesday for week 1.
Yeah.
And I hope that isn't stemming from a referee shortage thing. I think it was Lafayette Renaissance Charter against J.S. Clark.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I did see that.
I hope that doesn't stem from a referee shortage. I just hope we're able to get this figured out
Right.
and not have it become a bigger issue than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I really hope so. I mean, hopefully we don't have those Wednesday games throughout the season because that could be very unsafe for the players because that's a short layover between games.
Yeah, turn around.
But anyway, we're gonna have to wrap this up, guys.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Grant Sasher of Brooklyn Sports Media, Crescent City Sports. We got Jace LeJeune of Gridiron Football, who most of the time will be here unless he's locked in the basement of Gridiron Football.
Yeah,
I guess it wasn't Andy. It was probably somebody else. It wasn't Andy. It was Andy. But also, we're also glad to have on Spencer. Spencer from time to time may fill in for Jace if he's got something going on because Jace is a very busy man. He does a lot for not only for Gridiron Football, but the stuff they do over there for these kids. He's got a lot of events going on. He's got to handle the scouting for Gridiron Football for the upcoming bowl game that'll be happening in December. He does a lot. So there's going to be some times where we're like, hey, Jace, take the day off. And then we'll probably have somebody like Spencer come in.
Absolutely.
Spencer does a great job covering football. He's very knowledgeable, like Jace. And he's a rising up-and-comer, just like we're all rising up-and-comers, but me and Spencer have chemistry too. Like, we went to school together. We graduated in the same graduating class. We're at the Reveille together where we both covered soccer. Like, we know our stuff. So just because Jace may be locked in the basement, he can be easily replaced.
Oh,
he can be.
Right.
You never know. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But anyway, guys, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Ruger Sports Media's podcast, and we'll see you guys next week. Because it's going to be constantly. We're going to be constantly talking about football for the next 15 weeks, and I'm very excited. Let's go, baby. All right, guys. All right. Peace, y'all.
Can't see my hand.
Yeah.